getting to the Thunder here now, they did lose that tiebreaker, pushed them to 12. However, they already had a successful season. This is just icing on the cake. I don't think they're really disappointed about losing one spot in the draft. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. Looking at their current talent pool, the way they almost broke into the playoffs for virtue of the play-in, having number 12, not a bad thing at all. I mean, they stick in the lottery, so I mean, missing the playoffs could be a blessing in disguise for them. One more year, kind of grooming that young talent could be a blessing for them. So they have so many options at that range, and the sense I'm getting from this draft, looking at how guys have been ranked, is you have the top end talent; those guys are not moving. You have probably that second tier, the Jarris Walkers and the Thompson twins and guys like that. After that, it's kind of like, once you get to like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I feel like there's a lot of, you can really you can get creative with who you select at each spot. I think it comes down to need at that point. It's like, hey, you need a shooter, Grady's on the board. You're looking for a little bit more of the defensive touch with offensive upside. Taylor Hendricks is on the board for you. You're looking for that defensive versatility. I mean, Rupert's on the board. So it's like there's so many options there. And I just kept wrecking my brain about who would the Thunder pick, but I just kind of gave up because the Thunder, they've shown us in the last couple of years, there's no telling who they'll pick. They'll grab a guy and you're like, I didn't see that coming, but we'll ride with it. And then all of a sudden it's like J-Dub, almost wins Rookie of the Year, or Jalen Williams, the J Will comes off the bench and he's doing great things. He's starting in the playing games at center. I mean, like the Thunder front office, I think they're just kind of wacky with how they draft guys, but it always seems to work for them somehow. So not sure who you're thinking as far as who might be on the board for them. Might be kind of hard to say at this point, but I mean, they have a variety of options and it really just comes down to what they're trying to fill. So maybe a center in there, center's been a little bit of a weak point for them, but I can't wait to see what they do because that front office is on point with their drafting here recently.
Well, Aaron, yourself and everyone else had no trade clause. The Oklahoma City Thunder are kind of what you guys live for, right? To break down their current situation, their roster flexibility in terms of they have a lot of guys who we think are going to be on the roster next year. They have some non-guaranteed deals. They still have some options they can play around with. So there's a little bit of roster flexibility that they have. But for the most part, like I just said, we expect a lot of their names to ultimately be there, and they have all of these draft picks. So eventually there comes to a point where they're another team that has multiple picks in this draft. They have plenty of picks, as we know, beyond this draft. This is the one team you look at and you say, do you consolidate assets at this point in time? And you go move up for the player that you want to add, and you make this player that you can take top 5, top 6, top 7, depending on how much you want to spend to get up higher in the draft. Is at the point where you look at that player and you say, this is our final building block. This is what we're going to move towards the future with. And now at this point, now that we have this foundation in place, this is when we start making additional moves to really bring in the type of veteran talent we want around a Shea, a Giddey, a J-Dub, Chet Holmgren, throw in X draft pick here. I think this is the team. If there's any team who would move up, in my opinion, this should be the team to do it. Because to your point, Aaron, you look at some of the players who are available in that range. Maybe you go with like a Derek Lively or a Leonard Miller because you want to add size next to Chet. Even though those two, they aren't the two bulkiest, biggest guys, right? They still are legitimate 7'1" in the case of Derek Lively. Leonard Miller, I think, is going to continue to grow and fill out and become stronger. Maybe you go with versatile size to add next to Chet Holmgren as he comes back. Maybe you go with more shooting support, right? I've kind of compared Jordan Hawkins to a bigger Isaiah Joe. We saw how Isaiah Joe worked out for the Thunder when they picked him up from my team, the 76ers, that I'm a fan of, and we just cut him. And I was swearing up and down social media, why did we do that? But nevertheless, he found a good home in Oklahoma City. Do you go with somebody like that? Do you take a flyer on somebody like Bilal Coulibaly, who has emerged as one of my favorite one of my favorite draft prospects, honestly, in general? You could take a number of flyers in that range, or you can trade up and get an ingredient. Like, to me, the best fit would be like a Jarris Walker or a Taylor Hendricks. You can go the route of a Cam Whitmore. Those three guys, in my opinion, it may cost you quite a few assets to move up and get one of those guys, but where I have them graded on my board versus where you kind of move down to. The gap in talent to me is significant enough to where if I believe that one of those guys is a missing link and we can really start to move forward in the Western Conference, get within that top 8, maybe even challenge for a top 6 spot and continue to build forward, why not make this the time to go do something like that? So that's what I think they should do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think it's just a matter of when they decide to consolidate. This would be a great time for sure with the way this draft is looking, with the strength, the depth of this draft. You can't really go wrong. I was of the same opinion. At some points, like you have to cash in. You can't use all these picks. You can't use all 55 picks that you have over the next like 7 years. You just get to a point where it's just too much. So yeah, I mean, whether it's this year or what in the off season, like who knows? But regardless, they're definitely going to have to consolidate. I think the time is coming. They know that they're on the cusp of something great. You can see the flashes this season. You can see the Williamses come out to do their thing. Their other draft pick, Osman Dang, that came out and played spot minutes, but he has something to offer with his size and possible versatility. And, of course, Chet with the way he contributes on the court. I mean, all around, they just have so many players that can do great things for them. So if they do decide to cash in, I think it's going to be for a surefire guy they believe can really help them get to the next level, that can be that number 2 next to Shea, make a lot of noise. So, yeah, I mean, this is a great time to be a fan of the Thunder and, honestly, just to be a fan in general, because what they do, the way they've built this team and not gone into a 5-year prolonged struggle at the bottom of the standings is really impressive. I think they only had about 2 years where they're towards the bottom and they're right back up, ready to compete. So kudos to that front office. They know what they're doing.